אני רואה שרוחי הצטרפה.
Rohi is here. Rohi is here. Okay. Click on more and then what do you see?
I see a bunch of things like a hands up, a hands down.
If you click on more, there's something that you can make me as a host.
How do I make you as a host? Claim host?
No, okay. I see that you're also not a host. Okay. You cannot, can you record at least?
I have no idea. Can I record? Who do I see record? Yeah.
Can you click and see that it's recording?
Please request recording.
Yeah, so we cannot record the class. Okay.
Hello, the host is.
No, no one is a host.
No matter knows how to record. He knows how to record anyway.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, my friends, welcome. Good evening, everybody.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Good to see all the beautiful faces. Please show your face.
Shalom, Rabbi.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Everybody can show their face so we can see each other and enjoy the opportunity of learning and meeting together at our Wednesday night class, which meets and joins for many, many years, even during Corona. Tonight's class is the Parsha of Acharei-Kedoshim. It's a double Parsha and a very, very interesting Parsha. Parsha number 1, Acharei, goes back to a story which took place a couple weeks earlier. Remember that we learned Farkash. You know what? Everybody, please mute yourself for now so we can have quiet. Then we're going to unmute so you can come back to the class. Thank you. So basically, what the Parsha tells us is that Vayehi Achrei Mois Shnei Bnei Aaron. You remember the story that Aaron Cohen lost 2 of his sons and was Nadav and Abihu. And now we are on chapter 16, verse 1. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe Achrei Mois Shnei Bnei Aaron bekosom lifnei Hashem vayomusu. Hashem spoke to Moshe after the death of Aaron's 2 sons when they approached before Hashem and they died. And Hashem said to Moshe, Daber el Aaron achicha, speak to Aaron, your brother, ve'al yovoi bechol eis el hakodesh mipeis laporoiches el pnei hakaporet asher alo oroin ve'lo yom. He may not come at all times into the sanctuary within the curtain in front of the cover that is upon the ark. Hello, please mute yourself. Please. I can't mute you. Mute yourself. We can't continue. We have a lot of... we're going to give everybody the opportunity to speak after a little presentation. Thank you. So what does he say? That he should not come on every given time whenever he wants into the Holy of Holiness. Rather, ki bezois yovei Aaron, and Hashem gives to Moshe to share with Aaron a whole list of preconditions. When and how is he going to be able to enter the Holy of Holies? As the Torah goes on, the only time that Aaron was able to walk in to Acharei-Kedoshim, to the Holy of Holies, was mainly once a year. On Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, it was a very brief entry that Aaron had to go through a whole process of preparation in order to be ready and available to enter this whole place. as it's being described in great details both in the Parsha, plus there's a whole tractate of Mishnah and Talmud, and the name of the tractate is called Masechta Yuma. Yuma means in Aramaic the day, and this is a tractate of Talmud which talks about the day of Yom Kippur. And the Mishnah in Masechet Yuma begins the discussion that 7 days before Yom Kippur, Aaron was already removed from his family. He entered to a special chamber in the base of Mikdash, which was specifically designed for that purpose, to serve a home for Aaron during that 7 days, the week before Yom Kippur. So when it comes Yom Kippur, he is ready and prepared to go and to do the holy day service, and especially the moment entering the Holy of Holies. Once a year, not more than once a year. What did Aaron accomplish by entering the Holy of Holies? That was the moment that he brought about the atonement, the kapara for the entire community and for the entire Jewish people, as it says in the Chumash, in the Parsha, nobody, no person should be there in the tent of meeting. Aaron would come in and bring about the atonement. That was the moment that he brought the atonement for himself and for his family and for the entire congregation of Israel. This is the story of this Parsha, which we are actually reading every year on Yom Kippur, the Holy Day of Atonement. This is, as I said probably a few times, this is the most listened Parsha of all the portions of the Torah, because it's read on Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur is usually the time that as most people in all the synagogues, and more people hear this Parsha than they hear and they know about any other Parsha of the Torah. So I want to talk a little bit about Aaron and the special service on Yom Kippur, and connected to the so-called current events and that takes place in today's world, and sharing with you a few very interesting experiences which happened in the world this week, and and hopefully walk away with a lesson. Starting number one is, how did Aaron feel walking in the Holy of Holies? And what do I mean, how did he feel? This is the place, the very place where he was hit with the biggest tragedy that he ever experienced. It was a small little chamber, a small little room in the temple, not a big room, didn't have any fancy furniture. That little room in the Bet HaMikdash, in the temple, literally had one piece of furniture called the Aron, the Holy Ark, which contained the Luchot, the tablets inside it. And that was the only piece which was placed in the center of that little room, right? 20 cubits by 10 was the Aron in a small room. It was all the way up on the western side of the temple. So if you came up from the east, you went all the way up. That was the end side of the temple. Aaron walks in there, and you can imagine, what does he think about? What does a person think? What does a person feel? What does a person experience when he comes into a place, a small room, that he knows that his two sons, Nadav and Avihu, were there in that room, and in that room it would experience their death. This is where he lost them. This is what the last time we saw them was when they entered the room. He never saw them again. They were carried out of the Holy of Holies as dead bodies. They couldn't continue their service. He became a mourner. From a family of 4, he now ended up in a family of 2. And what does he need to feel coming in on the holiest day of the year in that holy place which he experienced his loss? I assume, looking from the eyes of a simple, common sense type of person, I think when you come in once a year to a place where you had such a tremendous loss, you probably are concentrating on your loss. You're thinking of the loss, probably the pictures of these 2 children, Nadav and Avihu, the way they entered with such enthusiasm and excitement to this location, as we spoke many times, being explained by our commentaries, that when Aaron's 2 sons, Nadav and Avihu, when they walk into that Holy of Holies, it wasn't, God forbid, they were looking to get into trouble and they died on an overdose because they looked for a secret location that nobody's going to catch them and have a smoke or get into some other type of trouble, which ended up in tragedy. They were pulled into this place because they were so inspired and so excited and so interested and enthusiastic to walk into a place which represents the peak, the height of holiness. It's what they grew up with. They heard their father, they're going to be Kohanim, and they're going to serve in the temple, and their father's going to come in to a place called Acharei-Kedoshim, and there is where the ark is going to be. And God says that when he's communicating with his people, it's going to be from that very location, from the Holy of Holies. So what does a child do? What does a child do? Tries to sneak in to find out what is that holy, majestic place that his father, and maybe one day he, is going to be able to meet up with God. Look, I'm not that old and I'm not that young either anymore, but I remember and I can think about being a child, and I can think about my children who are children. As more precious and as more you emphasize to your children that don't go there, this is like a very, very special place. And this is like where God comes down. And there is where you're going to meet, let's say, Moses, or you're going to meet the Rebbe, or there is, this is the place that I'm hiding, $1 million in cash, or who knows what. What's a normal kid? Come on, we were all kids. We all have that little kid inside us. What would you do? Truth, tell me. You ever try? One time your father's on vacation, your mother is away. Next thing you know, sneaked into the room, quietly opening it up. Let me see what is happening in that little location. What happens in that chamber? What is this great mystery about it? There's actually a story. There's a story which the Rebbe once told that there was a book which was a handwritten book in the home of, which I believe belonged to the Alter Rebbe. And it said on it that anyone who touches it or looks inside it falls into a status of excommunication. Basically, it's a term in Jewish law called cherem. Cherem means that you're like banned in this world, in the higher world, for looking into something which I forbid you to look into. No, one day, there was a fire in Lubavitch. Like it used to be fires in those days, and Nebuch, many of the books and the manuscript belonging to the Alter Rebbe, Reb Shneur Zalman, was consumed in that fire. Now that they were consumed in that fire, so the Alter Rebbe went to his grandson which later became the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the Alter Rebbe asked them, tell me, did you ever look into that book? Did you ever study that book? Do you have any information that you can share from that book? So the Tzemach Tzedek, the grandson, turns to his grandfather and he says, Zayda, how could have I look into that book when there was 3 letters in Hebrew said Chadrag, which means that if anybody looks into that manuscript, which is private property, personal property, falls into a status of being banned from this world and banned from the world to come and in trouble. How would I dare look into this book? You know what he said that told them? The Alter Rebbe told them, listen, you probably knew that this is writings of Hasidic philosophy. Don't you feel, weren't you thinking that maybe you should self-sacrifice yourself to go in to look into something which contains insight in Hasidism? So basically, he was rebuking them, he admonished them for not violating his own restrictions, not to look in the book which he said not to look. I know between me and you guys, if I have a book that I do want my kids to read, you know what I do? What do? I tell Kinderlach, nobody should touch that book. This is a very, very special book that only tatis can read. And no one should ever look into it until you get permission from your father, until you get permission, written permission from me. Don't you dare go over to that book. Next thing, what do you know? Obviously, they heard it's a special book. You need to have special permission. You have to be authorized. They sneak in, they take a look in it, and I'm very happy. Baruch Hashem, they looked and they read the page which I wanted them to read. This is usually what you do. Don't tell it to my kid, right? But this is usually what you do if you want to create a curiosity. If you want to create a curiosity into children and asking them and wanting them to do something positive, so the best way to do it is to make a treif, to say it's not kosher for you. Absolutely not. Stay away from it. And kids, by nature, are looking into dangerous zones. That's what makes them kids. That's the whole excitement of being a kid, is to step over the red line, to step over the fence, and to prove themselves that they can do what you're not supposed to do. This is a kid. This is the healthy behavior of a kid, right? So what happens? There is a restriction, there is a familiar knowledge that there is a place called Holy of Holiest, that nobody knows the mystery of that very special place. And this is the place that Nadav and Avihu walked in. They were very excited, and they actually had an experience. The holy Orach Chaim, the famous commentator of the Chumash, the Moroccan commentator, Reb Chaim ben Attar, and other great people discuss and write about the spiritual experience that Nadav and Avihu had when they walked into the Acharei-Kedoshim, to the Holy of Holiest, the unauthorized service, the unauthorized entry gave them something so special that, matter of fact, they died. Their very death was a result of this experience. As the Kabbalah talks about it, their body was not able to handle that great excitement of what they saw. So either way, without getting into the idea behind it, there was a tragedy. There was a place which represented tragedy for those wonderful family, the family of Aaron. So again, if you are Aaron HaKohen, if you are the father of those 2 sons, and you know that this is the location which the tragedy took place, you can imagine what you feel when you walk in to that place quietly and privately and secretly, how a person would feel walking into such a location. Yet, what does the Torah expect from Aaron HaKohen? Very special. That when he walks into that place once a year, his mind, his heart, his whole being has to be concentrating on one thing and one thing only. How did people are going to receive their kapara, their atonement, so they should be blessed yet with another good full year, a year of life and prosperity and happiness and joy. This is everything what you did. If you go back to the Yom Kippur service, there is a prayer which quotes, I'm going to find you a machzor in a second. Let's see if I have over here. Oh, right here. There's a lot of books here. Everybody likes to see books here. There's books, more books. You're all invited to come study after Corona. Anyway, so what does it say in Yom Kippur in the service? We actually read what Aaron HaKohen did for these very few minutes that he entered the Holy of Holiness. And I'm going to read you the prayer, and you can see how difficult and challenging this prayer must have been for Aaron. The prayer says as follows. The following was the prayer of the Kohen Gadol of the high priest on entering the Holy of Holies. In English, he said as follows. May it be the year, Yehi Ratzon, may it be your will, Lord our God and God of our fathers, that this coming year shall be for us and for you people, the house of Israel, wherever they are. What should it be? Rich in rain, if it's hot. And when the world is in need of rain, do not permit the prayers of travelers with regard to rain to gain entrance before you. Basically, everybody can pray, right? It's a free country. So if everybody can pray, so when I need rain, I'm the farmer who needs to take care of my field, I pray for rain. But what happens if somebody is in the middle of his nice hike with his family? What does he pray? God, please, no rain now. I got to finish the trip. I'm on a very beautiful trip, and I'm having a lot of fun, and I need to be able to enjoy it. Do not make any rain coming now. So what does the Kohen Gadol pray on Yom Kippur in the Holy of Holiness? He says that when the world is in need of rain, do not permit the prayers of travelers with regard to rain to gain entrance before you. Don't accept their prayers, not now, because the world needs rain. It's more important than taking a nice trip. Fine. Then what does he say? Then he says, may you people, the house of Israel, not be dependent for their livelihood upon one another, nor upon any other people. So basically, everybody should have his own source of sustenance. People should have good jobs to be able to support themselves and not needing to walk around and ask others to help them. And then he says, may it be a year that no women suffer miscarriage. Women should have babies. And when you have a baby and you're pregnant, you should get to your due date and deliver the baby healthy. That the trees of the field yield their produce. And may there not depart the rule from the house of Jehudah. This is the prayer. That's it. This is a prayer. If you say it in Hebrew or in English and you read fast, you can do it in less than 2 minutes. Less than 2 minutes, you can read this entire prayer. So I'm asking you, think about it for a moment. You're entering the Holy of Holies. You're entering the very place where you were so tragically separated from your family. That is the place where it all happened. And what does God want you to have in mind at those very same moments when you are in this location? He wants you to think nothing about yourself, number one, but to think about the rest of the people, and what should your thoughts be about other people, not about anything like, they should all become spiritual and godly. No. You only want that they should all have what their needs are in their physical life. That's what you're asking for. This is what the high priest was asking on the holiest day of the year, making sure that they have babies and the trees are yielding fruit and there is enough rain so we can have what to eat. Basically thinking about the most, fundamentals of physical needs for the entire nation. And this is the greatest lesson and the beauty of the story of Aaron in this Parsha. That even though it's such a holy day, and even though he's entering to a place which in one end it can make him very emotional and to so-called concentrate on his own personal loss, yet comes the Torah and says, no, you're going to be there, and what you're going to have in mind and what you're going to think of and what you're going to pray for is going to be what other people have, especially in their physical, healthy, human life, is what you're going to daven for. Where did Aaron have the courage to do it? So let's go back for a moment and to see what did Aaron do when he heard about the loss of his kids. So the Torah tells us, and this go back to the Parsha of Shmini, when the story of Aaron's two sons, when they died, and the Torah tells us that they were stricken by fire and their souls departed their bodies. The Torah says that Aaron did one thing and one and only thing. And the words that the Torah uses is Vayidoim Aaron. Vayidoim Aaron is translated into English that Aaron was silent. Silent. That's it. Aaron's personal response to the tragedy was silence. What does it mean, silent? Silence means that he could have get up and say, this is not a place I want to go in. I cannot see myself walking into this very place where I had experienced such a loss. Why did it happen to me? I don't deserve it. My family is devoted to do God's service. We should have seen better. By Yidoim, he was silent. He didn't say a word. And this is the courage which we see in Aaron. Being silent, not complaining, not challenging on the situation which he had experienced. And this is what really represented Aaron, coming out of the challenge and this is the greatest so-called therapy that God is offering Aaron. And he says, you were quiet. Don't just be quiet. This is great. But if you really want to deal with that, you really want to come out in a strong, as a strong person from this experience, you're going to step in there come into this very same place, stand there, the place which you experienced at last, and you're going to ask that for no mother should experience what you had experienced. No family should have the sorrows that you had. But you're not going to do it somewhere else. You're not going to move away and, and preach about inspiration. You're going to come into the very same location and you're going to do it. There is 2 points here. The response, first of all, the Torah acknowledges that the response does not have to come immediately. It's okay to be quiet for a little bit. It's okay to be quiet. We don't expect a person to come out of the ashes and rise immediately and say, okay, we're going to build and we're going to continue and we're going to, be all fired up. It's kosher to be quiet. It's kosher to be silent, as the Torah says, Vayidoim Aaron. It's okay. I will tell you a tremendous story, which is actually printed, and the Rebbe writes it in a letter. This is what happened in Kfar Chabad, a little town in Israel, in actually just now, like I said, it was the second day Rosh Chodesh Iyar, 1956. 1956. How many years ago is that? 1956. Now we are what? 2020. So it's about what? 65 years, right? 1956. There was a school in Kfar Chabad, a small school called Bet Sefer Limlacha, a school which was to teach young kids a craft. Mainly it was artwork, like with wood and things like that. And at that time, there was the so-called the Fadayins. There were groups of terrorists which used to come in from the Gaza Strip, make a quick attack, then run back, whether to Jordan or to Gaza. And it was Rosh Chodesh Iyar. The night, it was the middle of Ma'ariv, and 3 Arab terrorists came in to the synagogue of that school, and they started shooting on every direction. The only way was to escape was to the windows, but if you went to a window, they shoot on you right away. Somebody closed the lights. Many students ran out of the windows, but at the end, it was the counselor, Rabbi Simcha Zilberstrom, which I knew his brothers. 2 of his brothers were actually my teachers. Rabbi Binyamin and Tuvia were both my teachers. Their younger brother, Simcha, who was the counselor, was found dead together with 4 other students. Till today, if you go visit Kfar Chabad, they have the prayer books with the bullets, the holes which were created by the bullets in the synagogue which the shooting took place. 1956, Kfar Chabad was a very, very sensitive place. This is Jews who just arrived from Russia, from Europe, went through the difficulties of communism, the difficulties of the World War II, and now these very same people are in Kfar Chabad, and they need to deal with this terror attack in their little village. It was very, very difficult for them. Very difficult. Many wanted to leave the village. They felt it's not safe. And it was about a week later when the Rebbe sent strong letters of encouragement and inspiration. And later in the summer, the Rebbe sent a group of yeshiva students from America to spend a few weeks there to strengthen the community and to give them the courage they need to be able to stay on their post and continue with life. So I looked in the history of the letters, and this is the book of letters from 1956, the way the Rebbe responded to that tragedy, which was a terrible tragedy in Kfar Chabad at that point. And the Rebbe writes to the rabbi of Kfar Chabad, Rabbi Garelik, and he says, this is the words, which I see from your letter that you're wondering, how comes I wasn't responding right away to the situation in Kfar Chabad? Says the Rebbe, am I greater than Aaron, the high priest? That the Torah testifies that Aaron remained silent after the tragedy. And I held back my response to you because it was very difficult to write after the story in Kfar Chabad. And you can compare it to Aaron, to get into all kinds of explanations, but there is no explanation. So I followed the footstep of Aaron HaKohen. Who writes it? This is written by the Rebbe himself. The Rebbe himself writes that, yes, the first response to the tragedy, I was quiet. I couldn't write. It was very difficult to say anything. Even you can't say anything, you're quiet. And you're quiet. The quietness to remain silent is also a tremendous strength. As the Torah tells us that Aaron was specially rewarded for the fact that he was quiet, but because that quietness is not only is quiet also means that is not challenging, is emunah, is a belief, is faith in God. But this is not enough. This is step one. Step number two is not only to be quiet, but step number two is to take action and to start to rebuild and to continue and to even strengthen what was lost following the tragedy. You know, in a week from now, we're going to have the holiday of Lag BaOmer. We'll see in the next few days what's going to be the best way we can celebrate Lag BaOmer in the community or as our community. But we're going to have Lag BaOmer. And everybody knows the story of Lag BaOmer. But there is an insight which I saw from a great Italian Kabbalist in a book called Mishnat Hasidim, written by an Italian Kabbalist with the name of Rabbi Emanuel Chairiki. The story of Lag BaOmer, which is usually known, besides the fact that Rav Shimon Bar Yochai passed away and he asked that it should be a joyful day, etc., but the story of Lag BaOmer, the way it comes from the Talmudic sources, is that there was the great sage, Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva had the largest yeshiva academy, Torah academy, which existed at that time in the Holy Land of Israel. And somehow, it was 33 days of a terrible disease which affected the entire yeshiva. And 33,000 of his students passed away. I'm sorry, 24,000 of his students passed away. This is in a matter of 33 days. Unfortunately, today, with what we are going through, we can have a little appreciation to such an idea of having about 700 funerals a day. Between Italy and Spain and America, unfortunately, we had more than 700 funerals a day at some days in the last month. Unfortunately, here Rabbi Akiva is having 700 funerals a day, every single day. Very contagious disease. Doesn't say there's something about the throat, it says, but it doesn't say maybe it was the original case of corona, God forbid. Who knows? A disease which affected your throat and very severely contagious. They dying. Came Lag BaOmer, the 18th of Iyar, and lo and behold, the disease disappeared. God willing, Corona should happen the same to all of us in the entire world. We should get up in one morning and find out it's out, it's lost, it's over. And that's what happened to Rabbi Akiva's students. And since it happened on Lag BaOmer, suddenly it was the end of, the dying stopped. So it was established as a day of celebration. That's why during the Omer, we don't do weddings. So many people don't shave. We don't listen to music. But many places on Lag BaOmer, it comes to an end. People start having weddings again. People take care of themselves properly again. This is to celebrate. One of the reasons is to celebrate the story of the end of dying of Rabbi Akiva's students, of his yeshiva. Fine, this is the famous information. Who says that the end of dying becomes a place for a party? So they stop dying, Baruch Hashem. Why do you have to celebrate it? So the commentaries are also referencing that the Talmud talks, there was another situation where people used to die every year at a certain date, the 9th of Av, in the desert. When the Jewish people spent in the desert, you remember, so God said that everyone who is in the age less than above 20 is going to die before entering Israel. And they used to die usually on the 9th of Av, because this is the night when the spies came back and brought their bad report, and they started crying, and the entire community continued crying along with them. And therefore, that used to be the night that many people used to every year die in the desert, which we spent on the way out of Egypt. What happened the last year of the 40 years in the desert, they're all waiting, who is dying next, who is not getting up tomorrow. And suddenly, not one single death in the entire Jewish camp. They were sure that they probably mistake the calendar, because usually the 9th of Av is when people die, and suddenly nobody's dying. Must be a mistake in the calendar. They're waiting the next day, and again, not a single death in the entire camp. Again, could be some mistake. But then, when they looked up to the sky and they saw a full moon, now they knew this is already for sure the middle of the month. This is already for sure the 15th of Av, and still nobody is dying. So it became a day of celebration. That it says in the Mishnah that every year the 15th of Av is a very good day. It's a special day. It's a day of weddings and celebrations. And one of the main reasons for that celebration is the fact that he stopped dying. Okay, so this is a beautiful reference to the idea. But where do you find, and why would it be that just because they stopped dying, we should be celebrating? It's all coming to an end. Okay, no more Corona. Great. I mean, I would have rather not have Corona in the get-go. Why should I celebrate? Why am I making a party now? So this book, which I mentioned you before, the book called Mishnat Hasidim, of this Italian great Kabbalist written many years ago, he says something very powerful. He says it's not only that they stopped dying. This is one thing which happened on the day, but there is something even more important which happened on the very same day. It was Rabbi Akiva himself. Rabbi Akiva, who just lost almost his entire yeshiva. He lost thousands and thousands of his students. And now you have to remember, Rabbi Akiva's yeshiva was not only a yeshiva. It was not only just yet another yeshiva. That was the center of the tradition. To transmit the oral tradition to the next generation, it all centers around Rabbi Akiva in his yeshiva with his students. Okay, and now he experienced such a flick that most of his students are gone. The whole thing that he invested, his efforts and his life and his energy to teach others and to finally establish the great academy that he had established, is Nebuch in front of his eyes. It's all coming to an end. It's all coming to an end. So they stopped dying. But you know what Rabbi Akiva did? At the very same day, he picked 5 students. One of them was the famous Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which years later, that happens to be his yahrzeit, and 4 others. And he took those 5 students at the very same day, and he said, Chevra, we are rebuilding again. We are starting all over again. We are making a yeshiva, and we're going to continue the legacy of the students who we lost, and we're going to make sure that Torah will not be forgotten from Israel. And this is what Rabbi Akiva did. So says this great book, you think that the joy of Lag BaOmer is the fact that they stopped dying? No, that's a part of the joy. But you know what the real joy is? What the real simcha is? The real simcha is celebrating Rabbi Akiva's courage. Look at him. He could have fallen into such a depression. He could have fallen into such a sadness and to say, why am I going to try again? It's not worth it. The whole thing doesn't make any sense anyway. And they are dying. Look at difficult and tragedies and coronas and diseases. No. The moment it ended, right away, he walked out, got 5 students, reestablished, rebuilt, and this is till today continuing the fruits of the fruits coming from the time that Rabbi Akiva had the right focus, vision, clarity to continue what was lost on that very time. This is the celebration. This is what Hashem tells Aaron. I don't just want you to be silent, which is great. It's unbelievable that you can stand here and not to complain. It's a tremendous, tremendous response. But this is not enough. I want to see you building, concerning yourself with the people's needs and with their future. So if you can walk into the Holy of Holies, which this tragedy took place, and stand there and to say, as we had read before from the prayer book of Yom Kippur, that no woman should have a miscarriage and all fruit should yield healthy and no rain should stop, then I know that you're not only not complaining, but you are interested in building. You believe in a future, and believing in a future is the greatest gift that a person has, and has the ability, and when he experiences this ability, is the greatest reward you can get. And I will tell you 2 stories. 2 stories. I will end up with a story what happened this week. But first a story, Pesach, we didn't have a chance to meet together, but it's one of my favorite Pesach stories. So I'm going to review it again. I shared it with my kids. In Auschwitz, one of the people in Auschwitz was this great rabbi. His name was Rabbi Israel Shapira. Before taken to Auschwitz, he was a Hasidic rabbi of a small dynasty in Galicia, in eastern Poland, called Bluzew. So it was the rabbi of Bluzew. And he survived the war. When he was sitting in Auschwitz, it was Pesach night, and there's all background to the story, and they finagled to get a hold on a small piece of matzah. And now they are sitting and doing the Seder, saying over the Agada, sharing some of the Pesach songs, quietly that no one should hear and no one should see. And then the Rebbe says, who is going to eat that little piece of matzah? So there was a woman in the corner of the bunk who said, there is a child over here and he's our future. Let's give this matzah to this child. And the Rebbe was very happy with what she said, and he gave this child a piece of matzah. Later came the liberation, the war came to an end, and this woman is meeting this Rebbe. And she doesn't know that he's who he is, what his name is. She only knows that he was in the bunk together with her. And she tells him, I hear that you are Rebbe. They're offering me a shidduch to go and date a certain man. His name is Yisrael Shapira. Maybe the Rebbe knows him. They said the Rebbe knows him. What do you think, Rebbe? Is it a good idea for me to go meet up with this Yisrael Shapira man? The Rebbe says, yes, I think you should meet him. You should set up a date and go see him. No, I know him. You should go see him. But a few days later, and they meet at a date. She comes to the date, and lo and behold, who is the Yisrael Shapira that she is meeting? This is the same guy. This is the Rebbe himself, which she never knew his name. The guy was with her in the bunk in Auschwitz, and he's the guy who she is dating. And she was like all shocked. He says, Rebbe, I don't know who you're dating. I'm a very simple lady, and I don't come from any great background. Why is the Rebbe interested in dating me? So the Rebbe of Bluzhev said, listen to this. When we were sitting at that Pesach night in the bunk, and I was looking who to share the matzah with, and you said, yes, I have a child of you, and he is the future. In this very dark days in Auschwitz, for somebody to consider that there is going to be a future, someone who believes in a future, this is the woman I want to marry. And they got married. And the Rebbe raised this child. He brought him to America. The Rebbe himself never had any children with this woman, but he adopted the child. And when the Rebbe of Bluzhev passed away, that child became his successor. And you can look it up. He was a Rebbe in Borough Park. The Rebbe of Bluzhev was the child of the mother who, being in this difficult, tragic time in Auschwitz, believed, and not only believed, verbalized in front of a group of people, let's remember and let's provide and let's concentrate for that future. Whoever thought about a future, who thought there was going to be a future, who believed there was a future. This is the emunah. This is what Aaron HaKohen, is the Torah telling us, did in the Holy of Holies, thinking, despite his own personal tragedy, thinking about the future and thinking about the people and what they have to be provided with, even though in that very same place, everything was taken away from him. So I want to end up this class today with a very emotional experience which I was watching this week, and you can watch it still if you want. Some publicities, but I watched it live, being a part of it, to see how this story of Aaron HaKohen, the story of Rabbi Akiva that we had mentioned, the story of the Rebbe of Bluzhev continues and is alive in such a tremendous level, even today's days, the 21st century here in the modern world, so to speak. Unfortunately, this last Shabbos, a very young man, a shliach of the Rebbe, a rabbi in the city of Hanover, Germany, who was stricken with corona just before Pesach. Unfortunately, it passed away this past Shabbos in his hometown, in the town which he served as a shliach in the city of Hanover. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Hanover in Germany. This rabbi, his name was Rabbi Benny Wolf, comes from a large Chabad Hasidic family. He has brothers and cousins and uncles which also serve as Chabad rabbis in many places of the world. And he also has a wife, which his wife is from a famous Chabad Hasidic family called Greenberg, which also many of them serve as Chabad rabbis all over the world. One of their brothers is actually a rabbi here in Vancouver, Washington, that our friend David Schneider knows very well. Another rabbi is in Alaska, Rabbi Yossi Greenberg. There is a Greenberg in Shanghai. There is a Greenberg in El Paso, Texas. There is Greenbergs all over. The parents had a large family, I believe 15 or 16 kids, and all of them are shluchim all over the world. So this young brother, 43 years old, Benny, was hit by corona in Germany, and it affected him in a very bad way, went into his blood vessels. And after 3 weeks that we were all praying and saying Tehillim and mentioning his name and davening for Binyamin ben Fagel, for Refuah Shlema, unfortunately, the last Shabbos, he passed away in Hanover. He left a wife and 8 children, Bli Ayin Hara. The oldest child is 18, youngest is probably 2 years old. Now, Shabbos in Germany is where he died, and the families are in Israel, and they are planning to starting making arrangements to transport the body from Germany to Israel, which they assumed is where that young rabbi should be buried. Since World War II, not too many rabbis wanted to be buried in Germany. There's enough blood in this German soil that if someone even dies in Germany, lives in Germany, usually is looking to get buried, transported to Israel. Definitely no rabbis were buried in Germany. They're getting ready, but lo and behold, when Shabbos ends in Germany, the family gets together. Today, everything is on Zoom. There is no flights. You have to get a private jet to fly over a casket from Germany to Israel. Everything takes a lot of difficulty and challenges. And the woman gets up there and she says, with clarity and focus, me and my husband, we came here to Hanover, Germany, as shluchim of the Rebbe, and to serve shluchim until the coming of Mashiach. I am not going back to Israel without my husband, and my husband is not going back to Israel without me. We came here as a team. We're going to continue here as a team. My husband is going to be buried here. He is a shliach. He is going to be buried in the Jewish cemetery in Hanover. And me and my children are committed to continue his work until Mashiach comes. He is going to work all the way from heaven. We're going to work here on earth, and we're going to make it happen. The all Hasidic world, and I'm telling you as a shliach, the all shluchim world, were in shock, in awe, in such an outpour of emotions and respect to see a young lady with 8 children taking the decision to continue their husband's work, not to let the Hanover community feel that they lost their father, lost not only their rabbi, but now to lose the entire family who they for over 10 years developed such strong connections. They're not going to move. The community is here. We are here with the community to stay, and we will continue to build. Sunday, it was a very emotional funeral that thousands was watched, but thousands and thousands of shluchim and families. It was on Zoom, and we saw in the cemetery of Hanover the casket being carried by other rabbis in Germany. The family, the mother standing there in child after child, doing the kriya, making the brachas of Dayan Noemes, and standing there committed, strong, with full focus to continue their father's work. You can look it up, probably in English, I believe if you go on collive.com, you can see the story, or on Chabad.org. Just put in Rabbi Wolf or Hanover, and you're going to find the story, which didn't happen not 100 years ago, not 500 years ago, not 1,000 years ago. It happened this Sunday here in our modern world, in a Western country called Germany, when, like Rabbi Akiva and like Aaron Cohen in the Acharei-Kedoshim, in the Holy of Holies, like Rabbi Akiva after his loss, and the story continues and continues and continues. This is the story of this Parsha. So if you wonder what happened to Aaron and what happened in this Parsha, when Aaron is told that he can come into the Holy of Holies for a moment to bring atonement, to think about it in these ways. Aaron Cohen entered the tragic place once a year to think about his people. So tonight, this evening, before I came to class and thinking that I'm going to teach on the subject, it dawned on me that Mrs. Wolf, this young mother in Hanover, Germany, is perhaps even greater than Aaron Cohen. Aaron Cohen only once a year had to go face his tragic place and think and keep in mind about every of his community. This lady with her 8 kids are now going to face the tragic loss of her husband until Mashiach comes, which I'm sure is not going to be too long. But every single day they're going to continue serving their community. Apparently there is a big hospital there, which I didn't know, that people are being even sent from Israel to be treated for brain surgeries and others in the city of Hanover in Germany. They're going to continue servicing them. And I'm sure that the kids are going to grow and continue their father's legacy, whether to their daughter's husbands or to their sons or whatever way it's going to be. But that was not encouraged or decided. Chabad and the family were getting ready to help them transfer the body in Israel, collecting money to get the family out of Germany into Israel. She, the woman herself, she is the Rabbi Akiva for our generation. She is the Aaron Cohen of the generation. This is the young children which are being raised in today's day and age, in the times of internet and iPhone, still have this tremendous blessing and courage, which is obviously only given by the Rebbe, to be able to raise such wonderful people, young ladies with kids who are committed to continue building Yiddishkeit and to make the world ready to welcome Mashiach, which let's hope and pray that this is going to happen very soon, speedily in our days. Amen.
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 And now, thank you. And now, my friend, just 2 announcements, 3 announcements. As long that we are in the world of Zoom. So first of all, tomorrow evening, there is going to be a challah bake on Zoom that Mrs. Farkash is going to lead a program at the bake challah from the Eastside Torah Center's kitchen. So please follow the email so you can join into the challah bake. Number 2, on Friday, 6 p.m., it's 45 minutes before you can start lighting candles. We're going to meet here at Zoom so we can say l'chaim to each other. I believe last Friday was very nice to see the people and to sing songs and to get into the spirit. So please also tell it to friends. You can bring in other people too. 6 o'clock on Friday. And then again, Sunday at 6 in the evening, we're going to have another class, the 3rd class in the topic of anticipating Mashiach. And we are going to discuss if Mashiach comes by next week. So since Friday is the 2nd Pesach, a month from the original Pesach, and usually we know if you couldn't do the first Pesach, you have a second chance. So if Mashiach comes by next Friday, are we going to actually do a Paschal sacrifice and celebrate Pesach properly? Yes or no is going to be discussed on Sunday night, 6 o'clock. And now everybody, l'chaim for a good life and for a happy life, and we should only hear goodness of each other, l'chaim.
Thanks.
No, say something good, somebody else. Arnold, say something good.
Something good.
Yes.
I think what's good is the fact that we can see each other on the Zoom and have these classes.
That's right. That's right. I must say, you look very good on Zoom.
Who, me?
Flesh is another matter, but on Zoom it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's a great act for being in a community in this situation.
Yeah.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Hey, Nat, how are you? Anat.
Baruch Hashem, I have 2 people sick in the house, and I think I'm starting something myself. I'm sweating since yesterday. There was ladies class with Rochi. I started feeling very bad, and I think I'm still not well. I don't know. Tomorrow I go to doctor. I had 2 pneumonias at home last 2 weeks.
Oh, I'm sorry. We are very sorry. Let's all wish Anat and her husband Gadi and her daughter Liam a speedy recovery.
Anat, have a speedy recovery. It's Tiger Khana.
Hi, thank you, Tiger. Thank you.
Tiger knows how to give good blessings.
Pardon?
I said Tiger knows how to give good blessings.
Okay, Anat, for real. May the bracha from the Maria Cheskel, the Baal Shem Tov, and the Tosafos Yantiv, my Zedis, and my beloved Yecheskel HaKohen Ben Zalman, may they bless you with a complete, speedy recovery. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who is Dina online? Maybe you want to show your face. Which Dina is that? Maybe she wants to say something good. Is that Dina Pelagashvili? Is that Diana Papini? Which Diana is that? There's another Dina too. That's right. You don't want to show yourself? It's not okay. It's not required by law. Very good.
Very good.
What else is going on? Everything else is good?
Baruch Hashem.
Guys, today David Normatov today got up from the Shiva for his mother. David, show your face so people can offer the condolences to you again.
I will
David
send him condolences now. Okay.
Let's say together, Hamakom, Kenachem, Etchem, Betoch, She'ar, Aveilei, Tzion, Yerushalayim. You should not know from any sorrow. I want to tell you, I was today in the cemetery. I did a funeral for a person who maybe some of you knew the father. The father is an old man. His name is Tzvi Ron, an elderly Israeli who his son lived in California. He never died from cancer. And he was buried here in the Bikocholim cemetery. So we did a funeral, and I looked around where he was buried. So first of all, today was the 5th of Iyar, was also the yard site of Yosef Abramov's grandmother. So we all had 10 people there. Now they're letting it ready to bring in Seattle at least 10 people to the cemetery, Armenian. So we organized Armenian, and we set Kaddish by her grave. Then yesterday was Yitzchak Aminov's daughter-in-law's yard site. So we said Kaddish by her grave site. Today was Liz Bernberg's father's yard site. So we said Kaddish in his honor too. So it was very special that we were able to take the opportunity to mention. So somebody comes over to me, a visitor who was there, and he says, I see you mentioned all kinds of names. Does the East Side Torah Center own the cemetery? He said, the East Side Torah Center is not in the business of the dead, we are in the business of life. So, oh, Dina is here. Welcome. Good to see you. How are you? Maybe you want to share something you learned, Dina. Get yourself on mute. No, you don't have to. We just want to wish you good and healthy life. It's good to see everyone. Okay, my friends.
All right.
Thank you.
We should have a good night. The last person to close the light close the door, okay? We'll
Thank
see you later.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Laila tov.
Bye.
Bye.